Your 4-year-old just threw a massive tantrum in the grocery store and everyone is staring. Your first instinct might be to threaten a timeout, take away their favorite toy, or maybe even raise your voice. But what if I told you that these traditional punishment methods are actually making your child's behavior worse, not better? And what if there was a way to guide your child toward better choices without tears, power struggles, or damaging your relationship? Today I'm going to shatter everything you think you know about discipline. The word discipline doesn't actually mean punishment at all. It comes from the Latin word disciplina, which means to teach. Yet somehow modern parenting has turned discipline into a battle of wills where parents try to control children through fear, shame, and consequences that often have nothing to do with the actual behavior. Here's the shocking truth that child development experts don't want you to miss. Punishment-based discipline creates children who are either rebellious or compliant out of fear, but it doesn't create children who genuinely understand right from wrong or develop internal motivation to make good choices. Research from Harvard University shows that children who experience frequent punishment are more likely to have behavioral problems, lower self-esteem, and weaker relationships with their parents as they grow older. But here's where it gets interesting. There's an entirely different approach that actually works better, builds stronger family bonds, and creates kids who make good choices because they want to, not because they're afraid of what will happen if they don't. If you're ready to transform your family dynamics and discover parenting strategies that actually work long-term, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We share evidence-based parenting insights every week that will change how you see your role as a parent. And trust me, what I'm about to reveal will revolutionize your entire approach to guiding your children. Positive discipline isn't about being permissive or letting your kids run wild. It's not about avoiding boundaries or never saying no. In fact, positive discipline creates clearer boundaries and better behavior than traditional punishment ever could. The difference is in the approach. Instead of asking, "How can I make my child suffer for this mistake?" we ask, "How can I help my child learn from this experience?" This fundamental shift in thinking changes everything. When we focus on teaching rather than punishing, we preserve our child's dignity while still addressing the behavior. We build trust instead of fear. We develop problem-solving skills instead of compliance. And most importantly, we create children who develop strong internal compasses that guide them to make good choices even when we're not around. To understand why positive discipline works so much better than traditional punishment, we need to understand what's actually happening in your child's brain when they misbehave. When children act out, they're not trying to manipulate you or test your limits. They're communicating an unmet need, processing big emotions they don't understand, or simply lacking the skills to handle a situation appropriately. Here's what traditional punishment does to a child's developing brain. When we yell, threaten, or impose arbitrary consequences, we activate their fight-or-flight response. The stress hormone cortisol floods their system, which actually shuts down the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for learning, reasoning, and making good decisions. In other words, punishment literally prevents children from learning the lessons we're trying to teach them. Dr. Daniel Siegel, a renowned child psychiatrist, explains that when children are in a state of stress or fear, they cannot access their higher brain functions. They're operating from their primitive brain, which is focused solely on survival. This is why punished children often repeat the same behaviors over and over again. They weren't actually able to learn from the experience because their brains were in protection mode. Positive discipline works with your child's brain development instead of against it. When we approach misbehavior with curiosity, connection, and teaching, we keep children in a calm state where their brains can actually absorb the lessons we want them to learn. This is why children who experience positive discipline show better emotional regulation, stronger problem-solving skills, and more genuine remorse when they make mistakes. The first core principle of positive discipline is connection before correction. This means that before you address any behavior, you first connect with your child emotionally. This might look like getting down to their eye level, acknowledging their feelings, or simply taking a deep breath to regulate your own emotions first. When children feel understood and connected, they become naturally more cooperative and open to guidance. The second principle is focus on solutions, not blame. Instead of spending time analyzing what went wrong or making your child feel bad about their mistake, positive discipline immediately shifts to problem-solving mode. The question becomes, what can we do to fix this? Or, how can we handle this differently next time? This approach teaches children that mistakes are opportunities to learn and grow, not evidence that they're bad or wrong. The third principle is natural and logical consequences. Instead of imposing arbitrary punishments that have nothing to do with the actual behavior, positive discipline uses consequences that are directly related to the child's actions. If your child makes a mess, a 6-year-old who lies about homework isn't trying to deceive you. They might be overwhelmed and need help with time management skills. Positive discipline asks, what skill does my child need to learn here? Then we teach that skill explicitly. We might practice taking turns in conversation during calm moments, create visual schedules to help with time management, or role-play how to ask for help when feeling overwhelmed. Let me give you some real-world examples of how this looks in practice. Scenario 1. Your 8-year-old forgets to do their chores repeatedly. Traditional punishment might involve taking away screen time or imposing extra chores. Positive discipline would first connect. I notice you're having trouble remembering your chores. What's going on? Then problem solve together. What systems could we create to help you remember? Maybe you create a visual checklist, set phone reminders, or establish a routine where chores happen at the same time each day. Scenario 2. Your teenager comes home past curfew without calling. Instead of grounding them immediately, positive discipline starts with connection. I was really worried when you didn't come home on time. Help me understand what happened. Then you work together on a solution. How can we handle this differently next time, so I don't worry and you can still have freedom with your friends? The key difference is that positive discipline treats misbehavior as information about what your child needs to learn, rather than evidence of their character flaws. This approach builds trust because children feel heard and understood, even when they've made mistakes. But here's what many parents worry about. Won't my child just walk all over me if I don't use punishment? The answer is absolutely not. Positive discipline actually creates better boundaries because they make sense to children and are consistently enforced. When boundaries are logical and connected to the behavior, children are more likely to internalize them and follow them even when you're not watching. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the challenges you'll face when transitioning from punishment-based discipline to positive discipline. The biggest hurdle is that positive discipline often takes longer in the moment. When your child is having a meltdown, it's faster to send them to their room than it is to connect with them and problem solve together. But here's what you need to remember. Punishment might stop the behavior faster in the short term, but positive discipline prevents the behavior from happening again in the long term. Think of it as an investment. Yes, you're spending more time up front, but you're building skills and strengthening your relationship in ways that will pay dividends for years to come. Children who experience positive discipline become more self-regulated, more empathetic, and better problem solvers because they've been practicing these skills with you from an early age. Another challenge is dealing with judgment from others. When you choose not to punish your child in public, other people might think you're being too permissive. Remember that most people were raised with punishment-based discipline and don't understand that there's another way. Your job isn't to educate strangers in the grocery store. It's to do what's best for your child's long-term development. Let's talk about age-specific strategies because positive discipline looks different depending on your child's developmental stage. For toddlers, aged 1 to 3, the focus is on prevention and redirection. Toddler brains are incredibly impulsive, So instead of expecting them to control themselves, we control the environment. We child-proof our homes, establish predictable routines, and offer choices within boundaries. Would you like to brush your teeth first or put on your pajamas first? When toddlers do misbehave, we stay calm, get on their level, and use simple language. I see you through your food. Food is for eating. If you're done eating, you can say, all done. Then we show them what to do instead. Remember, toddlers learn through repetition and modeling, not through logical consequences they can't yet understand. For preschoolers aged 3 to 5, we can start introducing more problem-solving and emotion coaching. Their language skills are developing rapidly, so we can help them name their feelings and brainstorm solutions. When conflicts arise, we might say, I see 2 children who both want the same toy. This is a problem we need to solve. What are some ideas? Then we guide them toward fair solutions like taking turns or finding a similar toy. For school-age children age 6 to 12, positive discipline becomes more collaborative. These children can understand cause and effect, so natural consequences become more effective. They can also participate in family meetings where you solve problems together and establish family rules collaboratively. When they break agreements, you can refer back to what you decided together. Remember when we all agreed that homework comes before screen time? What do you think needs to happen here? For teenagers, positive discipline shifts toward mentoring and consultation. Teens are developing their identity and need to feel respected and heard. Instead of imposing rules unilaterally, involve them in creating family guidelines. When they make poor choices, resist the urge to lecture and instead ask questions that help them reflect. How do you think that choice worked out for you? What might you do differently next time? The most important thing to understand about implementing positive discipline is that it's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional and consistent. You will have moments where you slip back into old patterns, especially when you're stressed, tired, or triggered by your child's behavior. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Start by choosing one principle to focus on for 2 weeks. Maybe it's connection before correction. Practice taking 3 deep breaths and getting curious about your child's behavior before jumping into problem-solving mode. Or maybe it's shifting from arbitrary punishments to natural consequences. Pick one change and commit to it consistently, rather than trying to overhaul your entire approach overnight. Here's a practical framework you can use in any challenging situation. Stop, drop, and roll. Stop what you're doing and resist the urge to react immediately. Drop down to your child's eye level, both physically and emotionally, and roll with curiosity instead of judgment. Ask yourself, what is my child trying to tell me with this behavior? What do they need right now? One of the biggest shifts you'll need to make is in your own emotional regulation. Children are incredibly good at pushing our buttons because they're often acting out our own unresolved childhood experiences. When your child refuses to clean their room and you find yourself getting angrier than the situation warrants, that's usually a sign that something deeper is being triggered. This is why positive discipline often becomes a journey of personal growth for parents. You'll find yourself examining your own relationship with authority, control, and emotions. You might need to heal some of your own childhood wounds to show up as the calm, connected parent your child needs. And that's okay. In fact, it's beautiful. You're breaking generational cycles and creating a healthier legacy for your family. Let's talk about what to do when positive discipline doesn't seem to be working. First, check your expectations. Behavioral change takes time, especially if your child has been used to punishment-based discipline. They might initially test boundaries more because they're not sure if you really mean what you say. Stay consistent and remember that their behavior might get worse before it gets better. Second, look at underlying needs. Persistent misbehavior is often a sign that a child's basic needs aren't being met. Are they getting enough sleep, nutrition, physical activity, and connection with you? Sometimes addressing these foundational needs resolves behavioral issues more effectively than any discipline strategy. Before we wrap up, I want to make sure you have access to all the tools and strategies that will support your positive parenting journey. If this approach resonates with you and you want to dive deeper into research-backed parenting methods, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We share practical, science-based strategies every week that will transform not just your child's behavior, but your entire family dynamic. Third, consider whether your child might need additional support. Some children have underlying challenges like ADHD, sensory processing differences, or anxiety that make traditional behavioral strategies less effective. Positive discipline works for all children, but some may need additional accommodations or professional support to be successful. As we wrap up, I want you to imagine your child 20 years from now. Picture them as adults navigating their own relationships, careers, and possibly raising children of their own. The discipline approach you choose today is shaping how they'll handle conflict, process emotions, and treat others throughout their entire lives. Children who grow up with positive discipline become adults who can regulate their emotions under stress, solve problems creatively, and maintain healthy relationships even during difficult times. They develop what psychologists call intrinsic motivation, the ability to do the right thing because it aligns with their values, not because they're afraid of punishment or seeking external rewards. On the flip side, children who grow up with punishment-based discipline often struggle with anxiety, have difficulty trusting their own judgment, and may either become people-pleasers or rebels. They learn to avoid getting caught rather than learning to make genuinely good choices. They may struggle with self-worth because they internalize the message that they need to be controlled and corrected to be acceptable. The beautiful thing about positive discipline is that it's never too late to start. Whether your child is 2 or 16, you can begin implementing these principles today. Your older children might be surprised by the change and even test you more initially, but children of all ages respond positively to being treated with respect and dignity. Remember that positive discipline isn't just about managing behavior. It's about raising emotionally intelligent, resilient, and compassionate human beings. Every time you choose connection over control, teaching over punishment, and curiosity over judgment, you're making a deposit into your child's emotional bank account that will serve them for a lifetime. The research is clear. Children thrive when they feel seen, heard, and valued. They cooperate when they feel connected. They learn when they feel safe. And they develop strong character when they experience unconditional love alongside clear, consistent boundaries. Your parenting journey won't be perfect, and that's exactly as it should be. Your children don't need a perfect parent. They need a parent who is willing to grow, learn, and repair relationships when mistakes happen. Model the emotional regulation and problem-solving skills you want to see in them. Show them that making mistakes is part of being human and that repair and reconnection are always possible. Some days will be harder than others. There will be moments when positive discipline feels impossible, when you're exhausted and your child is pushing every button you have. In those moments, remember that you're not just managing today's tantrum or argument. You're building tomorrow's adult. You're investing in a relationship that will last a lifetime. The shift from punishment to positive discipline isn't just about changing techniques. It's about fundamentally changing how you see your role as a parent. You're not a dictator who demands compliance, nor are you a friend who avoids all conflict. You're a guide, a teacher, and a safe harbor in the storm of childhood emotions and experiences. Trust the process, trust your child, and most importantly, trust yourself. You have everything you need to raise confident, capable, and caring children through positive discipline.